They are straight up deleting their game on January 1st. Holy shit.
So they're literally losing money with more installs. It's tragic. Like, it's unbelievable.
Unity, the world's largest game engine, once held in high regard for its contributions to popular titles like Rust, Pokemon Go, and Among Us, has developers and players in fear for what's to come. Indie studios could be destroyed, finished games could be prevented from release, and development for many games could come to a grinding halt. What does this uncertainty mean for the future of Rust, and the possible release of Rust 2?
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
2020. Unity took a significant step forward for the company with its initial public offering, attracting investments from individuals and companies, successfully raising over $41 billion. Many hoped this success could lead the company to greater developments, especially for Rust, a game that had relied on Unity's engine since its start in 2013. Unfortunately, Unity's fortunes took a downturn as the years followed. Its share price, which had reached a peak of $196 in 2021, plummeted to nearly $36 a share as of September of 2023, representing an astounding 80% decline. What caused such a dramatic fall from grace? Ultimately, the responsibility falls on their chief executive officer, John Riccitiello, who wields significant influence over the company's decisions, for better and worse. Since taking the helm in 2014, and with the added pressure of being a publicly traded entity, his ideas and actions carried greater weight in 2020. Many of his actions would go to ruin this software company's reputation.
6 hours into playing Battlefield, and you run out of ammo in your clip, and we ask you for $1 to reload. You're really not very price sensitive at that point in time.
Riccitiello's salary took a staggering 160% increase following the IPO, reaching $22 million a year. With all this extra capital, he would go to acquire Weta, the studio behind Avatar and Lord of the Rings, for $1.62 billion, and Parsec Cloud Tech Stream Company for $320 million in 2021. For many, this suggested a trend of expansion for the company. Instead of increasing their workforce, the company took another path by laying off over 200 employees, contradicting Riccitiello's earlier assurance that there would be no layoffs at Unity. To make matters worse, he would go to make comments during an interview with Pocket Gamer, where he labeled developers critical of monetization as some of the biggest idiots, which only tarnished the company's reputation further. Unity's image suffered as they continued to make bad choices for their users and shareholders, such as acquiring a malware company called IronSource, a service blacklisted on Windows by Microsoft and registered as a threat on VirusTotal, leading many to believe that this acquisition would push more unwanted monetization practices on its users. This resulted in a 13% loss in stock value on that day. On May 11th of 2022, the company's shares hit a new low of $40 and a 37% loss of the company value. This price range persisted throughout much of 2023 due to the company's weak revenue outlook. It's clear that a series of questionable decisions have negatively impacted shareholders and the company's stock price. Unity and John Riccitiello felt the pressure from investors. They needed to do something, and fast. But the ship was sinking. Maybe it was time to get a life vest and get out. Their actions over September of 2023 would prove that this might be the case. Shamal Dovra, a Unity board director, sold 68,454 shares on August 30th for around $2.5 million. Unity's president of growth, Tomir Bar-Zeev, would also sell 37,500 shares for $1.4 million. Unity CEO John Riccitiello was doing the same over 2023, having sold over 50,610 shares, would go to unload another 2,000 personal shares on September 6 for around $78,000. This brings us to the tragic events of September 12th of 2023. When Unity unveiled their latest planned pricing and packaging update. This update would introduce their newly established fee system called the Unity Runtime Fee, where developers and development studios would now be charged a fee for every install past a certain threshold, but would only be charged once per install on that device. To illustrate this with Rust as an example, if Facepunch Studios used Unity's engine and received 100,000 downloads, they would incur a charge of $12,500. While this amount might appear relatively small compared to Facepunch's 2021 earnings of $96 million, there's a critical distinction to note. This fee is not per purchase, but per installation. In other words, every time a new device installed Rust, Unity would impose this fee. This means that malicious individuals could potentially exploit the system by replicating installations if they were first-time installations on new devices. Given Facepunch's efforts to combat cheating and shut down profitable cheating companies, these bad actors now have the opportunity to retaliate against Facepunch, potentially even bankrupting Rust through these exploitive practices. Unfortunately, Rust is not the only victim of these changes, such as Innersloth from Among Us, Loon Studios for RimWorld, and Niantic for Pokemon Go could face similar challenges due to the Unity runtime system. Understandably, many individuals, specifically Garry Newman, the founder of Rust and Facepunch Studios, expressed their rightful frustration in his article titled, "Unity Can Get Fucked," stating, "Let me be clear, the cost isn't a big issue to us. If everything worked out and the tracking was flawless and it was 10p per sale, no biggie, really. If that's what it cost, then that's what it cost. But that's not why we're furious. It hurts because we didn't agree to this. We use the engine because you pay up front and then ship your product. We weren't told this was gonna happen, we weren't warned, we weren't consulted. We had 10 years to make our own engine, and never did. I'm sure a lot of game companies are feeling the same today. Let's not make the same mistakes again. Rust 2 definitely won't be a Unity game." Unity's decision to alter the terms without offering additional value to their service has exposed numerous game companies to substantial liability and risk for a cost that Unity alone benefits from. The trust has been eroded. If Unity can do this in one update, what can they do in the next? The question is on everyone's mind for what will happen next with Rust and the newly mentioned Rust 2. For Facepunch, it would be a widely expensive feat to transfer to a new engine after 10 years of development for Rust on Unity, along with other companies such as Unreal Engine having high fees of 5% of any games that are sold on their service. Garry Newman has historically never taken no for an answer, and it seems Facepunch will be moving forward to make their own engine, which is where Rust 2 could come into play. But here's the concerns you could expect if they begin this transition. Bohemia Interactive, better known for their work with the Arma franchise and DayZ Standalone, which was released in 2013, started their own engine, known as Infusion. DayZ fell behind with neglected updates and features, all for the anticipated release of the Infusion engine. So why would Bohemia Interactive add in all these features when they would switch to a new engine later? It has now been 10 years, and fortunately this engine has been released as of this year, but it took a ridiculous amount of time to happen. So unless Facepunch onboards a team specific to their new engine, it's likely Rust could meet a similar fate, and less features and updates as they now might be done with Unity, and could pull away staff to focus on making this engine as soon as possible in order to have full control in making Rust 2 happen. This is positive for Facepunch in the long term, but could be drastically negative in the short term. We do not know what will happen. We can only hope that if the terrible circumstances presented, that Facepunch can do the best they can to overcome these setbacks. For the damage, fear, and suffering Unity has put forward with their unethical business practices, it's likely they will lose more value in their share prices as investors lose faith. But it's unlikely Unity will dissolve with their relationships to the United States government and helping advance their infrastructure for military technologies. As of September 18th of 2023, Unity responded to the backlash. Unfortunately, the reception of the response shows that Unity might be at a point of no return with their clients. There's a possibility of a leadership change, and we can only hope that a new CEO and management team can steer Unity towards a more favorable path, allowing us to continue to enjoy the games we love to play. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.